Good afternoon. Welcome to the Board of Zoning Appeals, July 9th, 2024 hearing or meeting. Ms. Cobb, will you please call the roll?
Shante Hall.
Present.
Richard Eslick.
Present.
Corey Carnegie.
Present.
Melissa Venable.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Terrific. Thank you. Are there any corrections to our last month's minutes? All approving these minutes say yay.
Yay. Yay.
Yay.
Perfect. Okay, we have one item of old business, which is BZA 12-2024, 212 North 7th Street, Reliable Renovations LLC. We asked if that applicant might consider a smaller home. Do we have any presentation of that, or?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members, Secretary of the Board, visitors, guests, and staff. My name is Melvion Knight. I will be recapping on BZA 2024-12. The public hearing was already presented during the last hearing. And so the information I'll be presenting to you today will just be additional information that the applicant has submitted to staff.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. All righty. As previously reported in the public hearing held on Tuesday, May 14th, the applicant stated that the RM zoning district standards will not allow for the development of a proposed 20-foot wide by 51 long single-family dwelling. The applicant has submitted additional information to us in the form of a survey and in a development plan to show a smaller property and a reduction in the impervious surface on the property. Since that hearing, again, as stated, we have received the items that shows the reduction in the structure. The previous structure shown on the survey was 2,040 square feet, and it has been reduced down to 1,360 square feet in area. And the impervious surface on the previous survey showed 51.2%, and it was reduced down to 49.6%. Again, same information as previous. The recommendation from the board to the board was that the exhibit would not be supported underneath the current regulations, and that a setback reduction would be required on the property. This is just the illustration to show you the smaller structure along with those modifications, along with the design that was not included in the previous staff report, but it is on the screen before you. If you have any questions, staff is available, and the representative for the applicant is present in today's hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Melvion. Are there any questions for Ms. Knight? Mr. Carnegie, are you moving forward with this? Okay. So Mr. Carnegie will not be voting on this item as he has a conflict. So this is not open for a public hearing. Do we have any questions or any comments? I'm thrilled that you went back and took a look at this and made some reductions. I think it's more fitting with the surroundings. With that said, do we have a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion for approval. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion for approval and a second. Any conversation? Seeing none, Ms. Cobb, will you please call for a vote?
Shante Hall.
Yes.
Richard Eslick.
Yes.
Melissa Venable.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Congratulations. Thank you again for making modifications and reviewing that application. We'll move on to our next item, BZA 16-2024, map number 35A, star 46, submitted by RST Group LLC. Ms. Cobb, will you please read the caption?
Before the Board of Zoning Appeals today is BZA 16-2024. The applicant, RST Group LLC, is requesting a variance to reduce the required side yard setback from 15 feet to 10 feet and the required front yard setback from 30 feet to 23.3 feet for construction of a new single-family dwelling. The property is identified as tax map 35, parentheses A, parentheses, asterisk star 46, located on East Washington Street, zoning classification, residential low, medium density. When you act on this request, you'll be acting on a request to reduce the required side yard setback from 15 feet to 10 feet and the required front and setback from 30 feet to 23.3 feet for construction of a new single-family dwelling. Should the board decide in favor of approving this request, the 8 findings as listed in your package must be articulated as part of the motion. We'll now have staff analysis and recommendation read by Melvion Knight, Assistant Zoning Administrator.
Good afternoon again. The applicant, RST Group LLC, is requesting a variance from the Unified Development Ordinance, Article 4, Section 31-407, Table 407-1, Dimensional Standards J and L, to reduce the required side yard setbacks adjacent to a street from 30 feet to 20 feet, and the required side yard setback from 15 feet to 10 feet to construct a single-family dwelling. The property is identified as tax map and parcel 35A, asterisk 4, located on East Washington Street in Suffolk, Virginia, Cypress Voting Borough, zoning classification RLM, residential low, medium. This variance request was advertised in the Suffolk News Herald, and a notice was mailed to the adjacent property owners in accordance with Section 15.2-2204 of the Code of Virginia. A public notice sign was posted on the property pursuant to the request of the zoning administrator. The applicant states the setbacks for a corner lot along East Washington Street, Zone RLM, prohibits the development of the proposed 20-foot wide by 40 single-family dwelling. Dimensional standards for newly platted lots in the residential low medium zoning districts requires a total area of 15,000 square feet with a minimum frontage of 80 feet and a minimum width of 100 when measured at the front setback line. The property calculates to 6,448.49 square feet in land area, and the non-conforming, my apologies, I think I grabbed the wrong report.
You're on 17.
Went to the next one, potentially. That's okay. I was almost looking to see if we could do all 3 simultaneously, but since one is a corner lot, I think that should be separate. They're all asking for the same. Melvion, I don't know how complicated this is going to be, but since the 2 interior lots are asking for the same exception, I'm actually kind of glad that this happened. Could we hear both of those simultaneously? And I think that would be, again, the applicant is RST Group LLC,
Ma'am.
map number 35A star 46 and map number 35A star 47. Can we do those simultaneously?
Okay, so you want 17 and 16 together?
Yeah, and I think you're asking for the exact same thing, so you can read.
16 and 18.
16 and 18
I'm
together?
sorry. And then we'll do the corner lot separately,
Yes, ma'am.
which, does that work? Take your time.
It will, but Kevin is doing the other interior lot, and I'm doing the corner.
Asking for 8.
Okay, then we'll do them all separate. Go ahead, we'll start over with 35A star 46, and we'll be all squared away.
Together.
Do you want me to read it again, just to be clear, just to be sure?
I could pick up where I left off. I'm good with that. Okay, so pretty much, the property is located inside the RLM zoning district, and the exhibits that's on the board is showing a 20-foot wide structure on the property, which is measuring 40 by 109 or 109.94. And according to the setbacks, which are for the RLM district, will require a 30-foot front, 30-foot rear, and 15 feet on each side. The applicant was requesting a reduction in the side yard setback in the side yard from 15 feet to 10 feet, and then from 30 feet to 20 feet for the front. Due to the design of the structure, it was going to have some projection into the front yard setback, and just to clean it all up, rather than do an administrative variance for the front, we decided to bring it to the board to achieve that reduction by the board for the front and the side, since the side would require a 30% reduction that is greater than what the administrator could have approved administratively. And so unfortunately, the reduction would not be granted by the zoning administrator at the time, and due to the inability to meet the side yard requirements for the RLM district, staff recommended approval of the request. And so here's the design of the home. This was an illustration that was submitted by the applicant. They are proposing to present a 20-foot wide by 42 length home for the property. When doing research on the property, this property, it shows that they were owned had same ownership of the property, but they were utilizing the property that was in the center as the primary dwelling site, with the driveway being located on the corner lot. For a period dating back to Nansemond County, this property has remained vacant over the years, and now that it has a different owner, the owner has decided to develop the property as a single-family lot with a 20-foot wide structure. I'm available for any questions that you may have at this time, and the applicant is also available in the audience if you have questions for him as well.
Okay, just for clarity purposes, because this particular application is a little bit confusing as it's in our package. This is map number 35A 46. They are asking for the 15 feet side yard to be reduced to 10 feet.
To 10 feet.
And the front yard from, okay, I got it, 30 to 20. I just wanted to make sure we were all clear. Is there any questions for Melvion, why we've made her nervous and confused? Sorry, ma'am.
Glad we can all laugh together.
It's all right. It's all right. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you so much for your consideration.
We will now open our hearing. Hearings are 30 minutes in length, 10 minutes for proponents, 15 minutes for opposition, and 5 minutes for rebuttal. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application? If you could come up to the podium, please, sir, and state your name and address.
My name is Stephen Cromedy. I'm the managing member of our RST Group LLC. My address is 3645 Cathy's Way, that's just Chesapeake, Virginia.
Do you have anything you'd like to present as it relates to the application?
Well, no, we turned all our information into Melvion and her group. Just like to say, we are, we've done a few properties in Portsmouth already. We've moved out here just trying to grow our business, trying to provide affordable housing. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. First time I spoke in front of the board. Trying to provide affordable housing. All three members of RST are veterans, so we're a veteran-owned company.
Thank you for your service.
We trying to present. We wanted to, when we originally purchased the property, it was going to be a rehab, but as we got into it, we saw that that property wasn't worth saving. We decided to divide the property up into 3 units, 3 different sections, and from there, we discovered that the size was smaller than what the standards were for the city of Suffolk, which is the reason why we requested the variance. And we provided all the information that was requested of us, and we would appreciate an approval.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you presenting that today. We'll see if there's anyone else to speak, and then we'll move forward. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone to speak in opposition?
Good afternoon. My name is Darlene Artis Britt. My father built a house across the street at 104 Reed Street in 1953. The property that the gentleman was speaking of, that he never got in contact with the residents of Reed Street, it's a small street. He's taking a single-family home and putting 3 properties up there, not considering the current residents. Also, we are concerned about the easement. We're concerned about the flooding that currently exists on Reed Street that have not been addressed to any of the residents of Reed Street. And I understand the veteran is trying to grow the business, but my concern is what does it do to the neighborhood? My concern is that a single-family home that did exist, and the current resident, I think she passed away 2 years ago, the property was occupied before that time, and since that time, since the 50s. But the fact that the property is being divided, so what does that do to the traffic flow? What does that do to the easement? What does that do to the sewer line? What are the concerns that the members of Reed Street have at this point? Is it the new builders, do they have any responsibility to the current residents of Reed Street when they're going to completely turn a street that has 6 homes on it? Then you're going to put 3 smaller homes and there's only 1 entranceway. And I don't quite understand the side back, stepping back, or something of that nature. But out of courtesy, out of respect for the residents that have been there since the 50s or their descendants, shouldn't some consideration be given to those families that currently live or have family members that live at that site? My opposition is I vote that at this time, that we not move forward with the proposal, that we take into consideration the current residents, the easement, the sewer line, and other things that will go along with building 3 homes on a site that is only large enough for maybe 1, maybe 2, definitely not 3. But we don't have any information, and they decided to do the same thing across the street at 27. The address was 2702. I don't know the lot numbers or anything of that nature, but I do know that to put 3 houses, you have 1 driveway, and moving that home back, and when you already have an existing problem with the flooding that exists on Reed Street.
Thank you,
That's all I
ma'am.
have at this time.
Is there anyone else to speak in opposition?
Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Charlotte Brown, and as my neighbor just said, this is a small developed neighborhood. I was born in the field on that neighborhood that is vacant now, and the main reason I haven't sold the property and been given quite a nice offer for it is for the reason that I'm here today, because I'm very particular about what you build there and what's next to me. But my next concern is, as my neighbor said, is drainage. The city has attempted to correct the drainage on our street 3 times, and 3 times they failed. So we're concerned that once you put another home, we've had 2 that were built on the street, and the drainage pushes. It keeps pushing. Okay, now you're going to put 3. Where's that drainage going when the ditches we have not been cleaned so water can flow? My second concern as a police officer from this city is crime. What we have not reported is crime, because we handle our own. I hate to put it that way. Police are designed to prevent crime, but you can't stop it if you don't see it. So that's another one of our concerns. My last concern is parking. I was told that for every home that you have, you're supposed to have ample parking. At the present time, we have 14 vehicles on Reed Street. What will occur with 3 homes? let's say they have two cars per home. That's 20 cars. And we do have activities on our street. And when there's no parking on the properties, we have parking in the street. With 3 additional homes that they're attempting to build, I don't think it's suitable for the neighborhood. And that's all I have at the present time.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else to speak in opposition to this application?
My fiance might be walking through the door in any second, so he came from work, so I might have him join me here if that's okay. And I apologize for looking at my phone. My printer was broken. So we live at 2654 East Washington Street, which is right next to Reed Street. And I just had a couple things I wanted to say about the, Caroline Hardgrove. Yeah, sorry. Thank you. So the current setback requirement at 15 feet, I feel, is crucial to preserving the privacy and quality of life of the residents on Reed Street and, they're around there. Our homes are sanctuaries, and the proposed changes would invade this sanctuary by increasing noise levels, possibly reducing sunlight, and creating a feeling of overcrowding. My fiance and I hope to raise a family in this area very soon, and we just value that privacy. Another issue is fire safety concerns. So when you have buildings too close together, I have many uncles and members of my family that are firefighters, and that's something that they harp on a lot, is the closer buildings are, it's harder to put out the fires, harder to prevent them from spreading. The drainage was an issue that I'm not even on Reed Street, but just being next to Reed Street, that's something that we struggle with a lot. The previous owners of the property tried to change that by digging a ditch to help move the water out, and it was not effective. So we absolutely have drainage issues that we feel would just get worse if you put more buildings and closer to our house. And we also are concerned about property values. So, the more close together buildings are, it's overcrowded. One of the reasons why we liked the house so much was that we had space on either side. And so if you put a property that's closer, then we just feel that would definitely decrease property values. Anything you wanted to add? He's the owner of the house, but this is Brent Ray.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
I think that's it. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else to speak in opposition to this application?
Would the decision for the homes being built on Reed Street or East Washington Street, would that decision be made today, or will we be given an opportunity to present further opposition to the land or the builders?
This is your opportunity to give your opinion and share your opposition. Once the public hearing is closed, we'll address the process. But this is your one opportunity. Because this isn't a rezoning, there won't be other opportunities. This doesn't go to Planning Commission or City Council. This is just a BZA item. So this is your opportunity to speak now. We'll address the process in a second, and then we still need to hear back from the property owner here in a second.
So the deciding factor, is there something that can be explained to me, the deciding factor in creating an overcrowding situation in a low-crime area? Is that something that can be addressed at this forum, or is it at a later forum? I don't know.
That would be a council, that would be kind of an open question at council or at the council hearing on their policies and actions for infill properties, which I think that's what this is considered.
The fact that there's strong opposition to the land, is that the consideration is being given at that point.
Ma'am, we'll talk about the process in a second. We have to finish the public hearing portion
Okay.
of this, and then we can answer some of your questions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so
I appreciate your
much.
time.
Is there any other opposition? Sir, Mr. Steve, would you like to come back in rebuttal?
Yes, ma'am. So I do understand the neighbors' concerns. As far as our flooding drainage, we do plan on, hearing to what the city standards are. If there's something that we can do in addition to, we're willing to do that as well. As far as crime, we're looking to provide quality homes, not, throwing together sticks or, project buildings or anything like that. We're providing quality homes, hopefully for a quality family that's going to, raise their family there. As far as crime goes, it's another reason we chose that area as well. It's a great area. So we hope to continue with that. Parking, that's part of our bill anyway. So there's requirements from the city. I'm not sure if they understand, and I'll be glad to share my information with them. And fire safety, we're going to build to the standard of what a quality home should be.
Thank you, sir. That will close this public hearing. Do we have any questions?
Also, we utilize some local talent to help us even start the process. I think the young lady said her last name is Artis. That's one of the contractors we use to demolish the property. So we're also giving back to the community by utilizing your local sources as far as the construction goes and anything else that we do.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that does close our public hearing. Ms. Knight, I do have a couple questions about the lots, just for clarification, if you have a moment. So just for history, there was a single home on the property, what is perceived to be one lot, but actually 3 lots existed, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, there were 3 lots, 45, 46, and 47.
So we've not created any new lots. These are 3 lots that have existed for a number of years?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we're not increasing the number of lots that can be developed on, and with the infill requirements, we can ask for a reduction in side yard setbacks because these are considered infill lots, even though the zoning that's placed upon them requests or asks for larger setbacks. But because they're considered infill lots, they can come to this process. So we're not asking for anything more than what was allowed to be placed here. We're just asking for a reduction in side yard setbacks. Is that correct?
Ask for the reductions to the side yard setbacks.
And we're not asking for anything in addition, we're not asking for a reduction in impervious area, just the side yard setbacks. I just want to be 100% clear on what's being requested, that no one's created new lots. We've not gone from 2 lots to 3 lots. There's always been 3 lots here to be developed upon.
Yes, and just to speak towards some of the concerns from the neighbors as far as drainage. Drainage is looked at during the single-family review process. So if there are any drainage issues that will arise, Public Works will address those issues. As far as the properties being in close proximity to one another, these properties with the requesting for the setback of 10 feet should not require the fire-rating of the walls. That would be a building code requirement. And then as far as the parking, each property is supposed to produce a minimum of 2 spaces on each lot. And according to the illustrations they provided, the parking meets the requirements for on-site parking that's going to be available on some type of approved surface area. So we've looked into those things, but again, another set of eyes will be upon it once it is in for a formal submission through our single-family review process.
And one last question, which I think is important. It looks like, and maybe the applicant has to answer this question, but it looks like, since we're kind of discussing the 3 lots simultaneously, the lot in the middle, which is the one that we're looking at the application now, it has 2 parking spaces coming from East Washington Street, but even the corner lot will also have 2 parking spaces or a driveway off of East Washington Street, and the Reed Street entrance or the driveway off of Reed Street, that will no longer exist, is that correct? We can, yeah.
Per
We
the
can
applicant,
address
correct.
that as it comes up.
Yeah.
But I think that does, the positive there is that it does allow for some additional parallel parking potentially on Reed Street. And it does close one access point from Reed Street into the lot, if that's how that would move forward. Do we have any other questions for Melvion as she's at the podium? I know I probably asked some obvious questions, but I just wanted to make sure everything was clear.
I've got a question that was brought up about an easement.
Well,
I didn't see anything about an easement.
yeah, I didn't see any, during my research, I didn't see anything of an easement. But if that's something that we need to, dig a little into to see if some Nansemond County records show an easement. The surveyor did not provide anything that expressed the easement present on the property. But if we need to look into the old Nansemond County records to see if theirs show an easement. But from my research, I didn't see anything that stated an easement was present on the property.
Easement would have showed up when he went down there to take take that one house down, and he took it over there to get everything subdivided. Easement would have showed up then
On his
because
survey.
they would have showed up then on the survey because it has to show everything all the way back until its beginning. So an
But this-
easement would have
This
showed
property
up
wasn't
then.
subject to a subdivision.
Huh?
It wasn't subject to a
It was on the
subdivision.
subject? Oh,
No, sir.
Okay. So, but yeah, then it wouldn't.
Thank you, Melvion, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Would the builder come forward again, please?
Steve Carmody.
Mr. Carmen. Without pinning you down exactly, I'd like to know what price range you expect these houses to be in to sell.
So we're looking 300 plus, depending on the size that we can actually squeeze out of it. But we're looking at 1,600 square feet, so we're looking at approximately 315 plus.
One last question on the subject property that's before us currently. There's a detached garage on the site. Would that remain, or would that also come down, or did that already come down?
That came down as well.
Okay, so on this particular lot, it seems to me that we'll have potentially less impervious surface. That's just a guess, or a very similar impervious surface to what was previously there.
Very, very similar to what was previously there, as far as, but the access will be from the front as opposed to from the back.
Is there any other questions? Are there any other questions?
Roll past this site because you can ride right past it. There's
Right.
nothing there. Everything is already
Everything's been
demolished.
taken
Yeah,
down.
everything has been taken down already. What he's asking for is what we already been going through each process already.
Do we have any other questions for
No.
Mr. Carmody?
No.
Thank you, sir.
So I just have one last thing. The only thing that's left from the previous property is the driveway in the back. And the only reason we left that there until we start construction, so that trucks that come in, it won't damage the ground. But that's going to come out as well. So everything from the previous property is going to be gone.
So you'll use the access drive that currently exists for construction for the three properties, and then once construction's done, that access drive will be removed and replaced with grass for the rear yards, and access for the three homes will be off of East Washington Street.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there'll be very little disturbance to Reed Street. It seems like there'll be rear yards adjacent to the existing home that's closest on Reed Street. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time. Do we have any additional questions? Oh, Ms. Cobb, would you, just for clarification purposes, would you mind stating, if this is approved today, what are the next steps for for these three lots?
So the next step will be site plan review that'll come through zoning's office. We'll review the site plan and make sure everything matches up with what's on this application, and it'll move through the building process for plan review.
And during plan review, that's when they would look at drainage?
It'll get routed out to all the different departments, Public Works, Building, Fire, everything. It just goes across the.
And again, I just want to be clear that no new lots are being created. These are 3 lots that are existing lots. There's a question to what the size of these lots are. They're very similar to, actually, they're larger than many of the lots that we see come forward here at BZA.
49 by 127, which is that corner lot, and it looks like the other one,
Like 4,200 square feet around about.
The
middle
2
one.
smaller lots are about 4,200 square feet. The corner lot is larger. It's 49 feet wide by 127 feet in depth. Ma'am, would you like to?
Follow through. Is it traffic coming off of Reed Street, so the driveway that currently exists will be taken away, and the traffic will be coming off of East Washington Street?
That's correct. So what the gentleman had stated is that during construction, he would leave that driveway in place to use for access to the 3 sites. Once the construction of those 3 homes is complete, the driveway would go away. And then each of those homes would have driveways that come off of East Washington Street. So East Washington is their front yard, or is the front of their home. That's where they have their frontage. And they would have driveways that pull in off of East Washington Street. So they will not have access to Reed Street except for pedestrian access.
I do know that the lots that were initially sold on Reed Street back in the 50s, Dr. Reed owned that property, and when he sold the lots, because there's a lot right beside my father's house, and you cannot build a house there. But it's about the same size as the lot that we're talking about. And that's my concern, is that the drainage problem that it will create and the traffic flow. I understand that it's necessary to grow the city and the revenue for the city. All of that's relevant. We're going to create jobs, especially someone coming from a veteran's background. All of that's relevant. But all I'm concerned about is the traffic flow. Normally, in a 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom house, you usually say, hey, a car per bedroom. So, well, they did that for the property in Chesapeake, the Airbnb. So all I'm saying is that if you having a 4-bedroom house and thinking that there's 2 cars, the traffic flow is going to be tremendous. You may even consider putting a traffic light, because the traffic flow will be a future nightmare.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your help, your input. The public hearing is closed. Thank you. Do we have any questions, a motion?
Well, I think the application that we have in front of us is consistent with what we've done in the past. I feel like any comments about affecting value of surrounding properties should be put to rest if he's going to be selling them at around $300,000. I don't see any negative effect on market value. As far as drainage is concerned, you'll put 3 new houses there that if there's a problem that exists now, I don't see it really adding that much additional problem, but they would be part of the program to try to get it improved. And as was indicated, if there are drainage issues, that will be dealt with before a building permit is issued. Okay, so that's a positive. So I think in order for us to be consistent with what we've done in the past on infill lots, I think that this would not be a detriment to the area. So therefore, I make a motion that we approve the application.
We have a motion for approval. Do we have a second or an additional motion?
I see the lot that she's talking about, but that lot is much smaller than what his lots are. So I see the lot now that you're talking about. So I'm a second your motion.
So we have a motion for approval and a second by Mr. Carnegie. Any discussion of the motion? Seeing none, Ms. Cobb, would you please call for a vote?
Shantae Hall,
Yes.
Richard Eslick,
Yes.
Corey Carnegie,
Yes.
Melissa Venable?
No.
The motion carries 3-1.
Congratulations, sir. We'll move on to the next item, map number 35A, star 46, map number 35A, star 45, RST Group LLC. And I believe this is the corner lot. This is a mess.
They have a question in the back, but it's closed.
We can answer after the hearing is through. We can answer questions, but we have these two other items. Ma'am, that'll come up in this next hearing if you want to. I'm sorry, Ms. Cobb, would you please read the caption?
Before the Board of Zoning Appeals today is BZA 17-2024. The applicant, RST Group LLC, is requesting a variance to reduce the required side yard setback adjacent to a street from 30 feet to 20 feet and the required side yard setback from 15 feet to 10 feet for the construction of a new single-family dwelling. The property is identified as tax map 35A*45, located on East Washington Street, zoning classification residential low medium density. When you act on this request, you'll be acting on a request to reduce the required side yard setback adjacent to a street from 30 feet to 20 feet and the required side yard setback from 15 feet to 10 feet for construction of a new single-family dwelling. Should the board decide in favor of approving this request, the 8 findings as listed in your package must be articulated as part of the motion. We'll now have staff analysis and recommendation read by Melvion Knight, Assistant Zoning Administrator.
Good afternoon again. The applicant, RST LLC, is requesting a variance from Unified Development Ordinance, Article 4, Section 31-407, Table 407-1, Dimensional Standards, L and J, to reduce the required side yard setback from 30 feet to 20 feet, the required side yard setback from 15 feet to 10 feet to construct a single-family dwelling. The property is identified as tax map 35A*45, located along East Washington Street, Cypress Voting Borough, zoning classification RLM, residential low medium. This variance request was advertised in the Suffolk News Herald, and a notice was mailed to adjacent property owner in accordance with Section 15.2-2204 of the Code of Virginia. A public notice sign was posted on the property pursuant to the request of the zoning administrator. The applicant states the setbacks on the corner lot along East Washington Street, zone RLM, prohibits the development of a 20-foot wide by 40 long single-family dwelling. Dimensional requirements for newly platted lots in the RLM zoning district requires a total lot area of 15,000 square feet, with a minimum frontage of 80 feet when measured at the front setback line. This property calculates to 6,458.49 square feet in land area, which is non-conforming when compared to the minimum requirements for the RLM zoning district. The exhibit provided shows that the property will not support a 20-foot wide dwelling, and according to Section 31-801, parentheses E, parentheses 1, parentheses A, parentheses 3 of the Unified Development Ordinance, allows for the zoning administrator to reduce the requirement or the reduction of the setback up to 30% for the front side and rear yard setbacks on a substandard lot. Unfortunately, the reduction request for the property exceeds 30%, which will not allow for the granting of a administrative variance due to the inability to meet the requirements in those specified setbacks. Staff recommends approval of the request. The illustration that's shown on the screen is the portion of the property that's located along East Washington Street and Reed Street. This property is showing that along the area that's adjacent to Reed Street, which would be considered a secondary front, the setback, according to RLM, should be 30 feet, but with a 20-foot wide structure being placed on the property, it will reduce it down to 20 feet on that portion along Reed Street, creating an interior setback of 10 feet instead of the 15 feet, which is specified by the RLM zoning district. The property owner has submitted the same development plan, same model house on the property, producing a 20 by 42 length home, which meets the specifications for the Unified Development Ordinance. Again, staff recommends approval of the information that's been submitted, and we are available for any comments or questions the board may have, and the applicant is also present for today's hearing. Thank you.
So are there any questions from Ms. Knight? Ms. Knight, just review with me. I don't have the specific background information in my report for this one. So it's from the setback along Reed Street is being reduced from 30 feet to 20 feet?
Yes, ma'am.
And the front yard setback is, the request is reduction from nothing in the front,
Nothing in the front. It's only going to be the interior side
15 to 10.
from 15 to 10, and then the portion that's adjacent to Reed Street, which is from 30 to 20 feet.
And-
Just so that if you want to toggle back and forth between 16 and 17, the staff report for 16 reflects the information that should be available for 17, just for correction.
Okay, thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
then I just, again, if this was a 30% reduction, so if we were reducing the 30 feet to 21 feet and not to 20 feet, that could be staff approved. But since they're asking for a 33% reduction, they're here in front of this board. I just want to be clear that there's a lot of this because they're infill lots that could be done by staff, but obviously for consistency, I'm glad they're here today to ask for these items. And the houses are exactly the same for all three lots?
Yes, ma'am. The
Okay.
same information was submitted for all three properties.
Okay. Are there any questions for Ms. Knight? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Knight. We will open our public hearing. Hearings are 30 minutes in length, 10 minutes for proponents, 15 minutes for opposition, and 5 minutes for rebuttal. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application?
Yeah, my name is Stephen Cromedy, address 3645 Cathy's Way, Chesapeake, Virginia. Again, you know, our intent is to satisfy the city requirements as much as we can, and it's the reason we're asking for the variance. As far as everything else goes, as far as the concerns were brought up on the last, you know, again, we are here to, you know, follow whatever rules that's necessary, and we offer any help that we can to assure that we are putting up a quality product that fits the city standards.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of this application? This is your opportunity to.
I'm sorry, I realized that I spoke at the wrong time.
No, she's right. It's the last one. Yeah. Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in opposition? Sir, is there anything you'd like to add? That closes this public hearing. And again, I want to note that the requests are requests that just miss the staff being able to do this without our input. I would ask that these houses vary some in color and maybe materials so they don't look exactly the same. There's obviously a lot of passion for this neighborhood. The folks here are convicted, and I want to make sure that the homes are in keeping with the surroundings. Are there any questions, comments, or emotion?
Make a motion for approval.
Mr. Essex made a motion for approval.
A second.
We have a second by Mr. Carnegie. Any discussion of the motion? Ms. Cobb, would you please call for a vote?
Shante Hall,
Yes.
Richard Eslick,
Yes.
Corey Carnegie,
Yes.
Melissa Venable.
Yes.
The motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. And we'll move to the last item, last application by RST Group LLC, BZA 18-2024, map number 35A, star 47. Ms. Cobb, would you please read the caption?
Before the Board of Zoning Appeals today is BZA 18-2024. The applicant, RST Group LLC, is requesting a variance to reduce the required side yard setback from 15 feet to 10 feet for construction of a new single-family dwelling. The property is identified as tax map 35A*47, located on East Washington Street, zoning classification residential low, medium density. When you act on this request, you'll be acting on a request to reduce the required side yard setback from 15 feet to 10 feet for the construction of a new single-family dwelling. Should the board decide in favor of approving this request, the 8 findings as listed in your package must be articulated as part of the motion. We'll now have staff analysis and recommendation read by Kevin Alexander, zoning inspector.
Good afternoon, Board, Chair, all that are in attendance. As previously stated, the applicant, RST Group LLC, is requesting a variance from the Unified Development Ordinance, UDO, Article 4, Section 31407, parentheses C, Table 407-1, Dimensional Standards L, to reduce the minimum required side yard setback from 15 feet to 10 feet in order to construct a single-family dwelling. The property is identified as tax map and parcel 35A, star 47, located at 0 East Washington Street, Suffolk, Virginia. Site for zoning borough, zoning classification, RLM, residential low medium density. This variance request was advertised in the Suffolk News Herald, and a notice was mailed to the adjacent property owners in accordance with Section 15.2-2204 of the Code of Virginia. The public notice sign was posted on the property pursuant to the request of the zoning administrator. As you can see, the general location map, the subject property is located in the Central Growth Area Core Support District, which promotes a single-family growth. Also, it's to assist with nearby retail uses, as well as easy access to family and transit services. This is the zoning land use map. It's just showing you the overhead view in the adjacent parcels. Here's the posted public hearing sign that was posted in front of the subject property. Here's the site plan showing the location of the proposed structure. It's actually also indicating the driveway, which should accommodate at least 2 parking spaces. Reasonable diligence was also done on this particular parcel. I didn't see anything in environmental factors that would prohibit development of this site. Here's the model set. Don't have a name for it, but I think it's one we've seen previously from the applicant earlier today. It's showing you the exterior aesthetics, second floor, the elevations. And here's the interior layout of the actual proposed structure, showing an open floor concept, uncovered deck, a front porch. So this particular parcel doesn't meet today's current standards. So with that being said, staff approves, recommends approval for this particular project. If you have any questions for me, I'll be sitting right here. Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, we both got questions. All right, so now we understand what she's saying, because he's saying 10, and actually is less, is 8.
Yeah. Well, it's 8.99.
Yeah.
So the exhibit that we have shows 8.99 likely adjacent to their property or adjacent to an existing property, and 11 feet on the other side, but you're asking for 10 in the application, so there's inconsistency with what we're looking at.
Also, on this parcel, also, Ms. Hall just showed it too. This the one that may have a easement.
This right here.
The house at 2654 East Washington Street.
Could you put up the map of this particular property? Maybe even more importantly, that's so hard to see here, but, nope. Bear with me for just a second. This one, that's right here. 8.99. Well, so there's some confusion. The property at the rear of the site, the property says it's 39.99 feet in width. The front of the site is 40 feet wide. That happens. But what's handwritten into this parcel map, or plat, I should say, on the left-hand side, it says 8.99 feet for the side yard setback and 11 feet adjacent to parcel 1, which is the parcel we first heard, BZA 16-2024. So this plat is not clear, to say the least.
Right, the plat is not clear, and based off what the applicant requested inside the application was 10 feet.
Okay, well, we'll hear what the applicant says, but I
Yeah.
think at best, we need to understand the easement, and we need some consistency, so I feel like we may have to table this to make sure everything's cleaned up. Are there any other questions?
But I agree with you about tabling this because that
Yeah.
easement and this right here, because this
close
can
to the
be,
other.
because when it comes down to the final site plan, all this has to be correct. Everything has to be,
That's correct, yeah. I'm not seeing easement on my exhibit.
I don't see
I don't see an easement either.
yeah, if you.
You talking about the ditch?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
ditch,
yeah,
because,
that's just calling out the ditch, not necessarily an easement.
okay, all right, because if the house that's next door
Because this
to
house
it,
is next, so they sharing, it's like a bush. It's like it's right on top of it.
partial 35A.P97, and it looks like the address is 264
Yeah,
East
this
Washington Street, and it's right there, let me see. And I could tell you who the owner is.
It's him.
That's you. So he owns
That's what
like
he's
the
saying,
whole
it's the
thing
easement.
all the way straight to the back. So he owns all the house, even behind Reed Street.
That's
He
land.
owns the property
land.
all the way, well, land, all the way back behind, everything behind Reed
Even though
Street.
it's even part of that ditch or easement or whatever. Because you can
That may
actually
be
go
a
through
ditch.
there.
Yeah, that may be a ditch right there.
But
Is
that's
there a
what she
ditch
is-
right there beside y'all? Yeah, so it's the ditch that we seeing. It's not an easement,
It's
it's
not
a
an
ditch.
easement, it's a ditch,
It's a ditch.
drainage ditch of some sorts.
You can be building right there by that ditch.
Let's go ahead and, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing for BZA 18-2024, so we can hear from the applicant as well as the opponents, and see if we can get some clarification.
Again, my name is Stephen Cromedy, 3645 Cathy's Way, Chesapeake, Virginia. It's my address. I'm going to say the exact same thing that I said previously. We asked for the setbacks because the property was a little bit smaller than we anticipated. We wanted to adhere to what the city standards are, which is, again, why we asked for the variance to erect the property.
Okay, we'll ask you some questions once the public hearing's closed then. Are there any other folks that would like to speak in favor of this application? Seeing none, is there anyone to speak in opposition?
Hi, I'm Caroline Hardgrove, and this is Brent Ray.
Hello.
So, yeah, so if it is 8.99, that's a 40% reduction. And I wanted to actually, I don't know if, am I allowed to ask him questions as I'm standing up here?
You can ask the questions to us, and then we can
Relay
ask
to
him to
him.
answer them if we
Okay.
see fit. Yeah.
Does he know how close the old house was to our property line?
Since it's knocked down, that's not something we can measure, but we can ask once we move forward. I don't know that it fell on this particular property. I think it generally fell on that center lot, the original home, so it would be about 40 feet away from the property boundary.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. We're really concerned about having a house too close to our property. I know I said this before, but we just really respect our privacy,
Yeah.
and we like that it's spaced out, and that's a pretty significant reduction. And there's a tree line. I don't know if you can see it in that picture. There's a tree line between the two properties.
It's just right where that black line goes on the left side.
Yeah, and so I guess is it in the ditch or on the other side of the?
It flows in and out. You know, the trees are either in the ditch, some on my side. I think they took most of the tree line out on that particular side of the parcel. You know.
When they took the house down?
Yeah, when they took the house down and started clearing the land and everything.
So we're just concerned that, it's like, are they going to ask us to cut trees down so that they don't fall onto that house? Or I don't know. It's just sort of stuff like that we're concerned
And
about.
also, like, why would you build a house that close to a tree line? You know, like if you have 15 feet, I understand that like you want to build a bigger house, but
Like, we already live here,
yeah, yeah.
so.
It's a small house. You're like basically making townhomes there, you know?
Yeah.
This is Suffolk. We came out here to get away from that stuff. You know what I mean?
So,
I think that's it.
yeah. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in opposition? You can stay, actually, will you, Caroline and Brent, if you just say that, there's no one else to speak in opposition. Sir, do you have anything else to add? You can have a seat. I know I have a question for you.
Well, I don't have anything else to add, but to answer the questions, as far as we did remove the trees up to the ditch. Again, that ditch we consider would be a barrier between the two properties anyway. And the tree line still will give them the privacy that they're looking for. So we're not trying to intrude on theirs. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm not the designer I didn't do the actual, I do sales and acquisitions as opposed to our group. But the properties are on a slant.
Yeah.
So if I'm not mistaken, I mean, that's where that extra inch probably came from. It's because that property is on a slant, and our person that did the design might have put it straight. As far as the house, did the house straight as opposed to adhering to the property line on a slant.
Your surveyor did that.
Yeah.
Your surveyor did that.
So, I mean, that's something that we could correct. We would definitely, we're definitely willing to do that. And then as far as your property value, we're hoping your property value goes up. We want to, I'm not addressing, I'm sorry.
No, that's
But we're hoping that, this is a start of increasing the value of the neighborhood as well as, us selling the property for top value. So.
Thank you. That closes this public hearing. Thank you for staying close. I do have a question as it relates to the ditch. Do you know if there's an easement that sits on that ditch? Or is it just, does the city have rights to, if you don't have an easement on the ditch, and the city doesn't seem to have an easement on this ditch? Pardon me? Yeah, it's probably because these lots have been, it basically would give them the right to go in and clean it out, the city, or it gave you the right to to do something with it, potentially. I just wanted to know if there was,
No, that's a part of, the land split right there. They didn't used to be there. My neighbor to the other side of me.
would you mind coming to the podium,
Oh,
sir?
yeah, so sorry. My apologies. So that ditch didn't actually used to be there. I think it was probably like 5 or 10 more years ago. No, probably 10. My neighbor to the other side of me, they said that when they first started building that, it was kind of like, that was like the dividing line, and that's how they took care of a lot of the runoff issues.
Right.
Because there used to be a pond there, and they say in the summertime you just couldn't get out of your car in the house fast enough from mosquitoes, you know what I mean? So,
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I think we've heard your concerns. So I just wanted to ask you about that ditch in particular. It looks like you have a fairly large parcel there that's accessed off at East Washington from what the maps show. Is that?
that's right.
Okay.
May
Thank.
I add just one thing also? We used to not be able to see Reed Street. We used to, only like in the winter time, really, when the trees were very bare. In the summertime, we couldn't see it. And because of the trees they took down, now we can totally see all the houses over there. So I just wanted to say that, I know that you didn't think that it changed, but it did change for us. So, sorry.
Sure.
Should have been dressing.
Sure. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Just something to consider, and I just thought about this, because this is an existing home that we're adjacent to, and it's a fairly substantial lot, it's not similar to the other infill lots that we've dealt with in the past, that we might look at altering these setbacks a little bit more and allowing the larger setback or the 15 feet adjacent to this property and this now ditch that's plotted, that's receiving quite a bit of water, and maybe reducing the interior setback line that's adjacent to the other lots. But with that said, I would like to get a survey that's more accurate or depicting what you would like to do. That's just my suggestion. I don't know if anybody agrees with that.
I was gonna say something about that, because I was gonna ask, what is his real setback? What is his real setback?
15 feet is what's required.
All right, so why don't he just push the house back?
Over.
Back and over. If he goes back, he's 35 feet from his rear,
Well, the rear property line that rear setback is nice. They're not asking for a front yard setback.
Right,
But
but
I
if he
think
push it back and go over to his right,
Yes.
it's gonna get him more.
Yeah, and you'll still have, you've asked for a 10-foot on that adjacent property. The first one we heard, which was map number 35A 46. You've asked for a 10-foot setback there, so if you have 5 feet on this lot, that's 15 feet between houses. That's perfectly acceptable, but that would allow 15 feet adjacent to this property owner. Again, leaving plenty of room for the ditch, potentially. Again, that's just a suggestion on my part. But either way, I would like to table this application so we have an accurate survey in front of us that shows the correct setbacks. But that's something I feel like I could support. It would cause less impact to the adjacent property here. I do like the fact that all these properties that are in front of us today have very large rear yards, which really buffers quite a bit the home that's back, that's 105 Reed Street. So that property I feel like is less impacted, even though the folks from Reed Street came out, and I think they made very, very good points. I think the driveway coming off Reed Street helps, and then having these large buffers for the rear yards is going to be terrific for these new lots, but also provides a really nice buffer for the homes on Reed Street, or the home on Reed Street. And I feel like we could probably give that same consideration to Mr. Brent and his fiancee if we could look at potentially a larger setback adjacent to his property. So that would be my suggestion.
Just building 2 houses.
I think he, like many others, want to take advantage of the fact that there's 3 lots there and he wants to build 3 homes.
The side is 11.99, what, 8.99, you're saying make that like
15 feet.
15, okay. put 15 over there and then 5 on the side, I understand.
I know that's something you probably need
Yeah.
to go back and take a look at, but in any case, I would like to have a clean survey before we make a recommendation. So if I can I I'd like to recommend that we table this application for 30 days.
Well, before we vote on that, I would like to see if the builder, without us committing one way or the other, because we're going to table this application, I'll make a suggestion that the builder and the two of you try to reach something that would be satisfactory because you're concerned about having a buffer and not having somebody right next to you. Since we're tabling this and it's going to take a while to do it, my suggestion is the three of you get together, see if there isn't something that would work out, and then when it comes back before us, we'll be able to make a better decision. And I think, so I see you nodding your heads, and the builder's got thumbs up, so let's see if we can't work together, and then when it comes back, hopefully it'll work out for everybody.
Do you understand what she was saying about basically the side that's saying 8.99 feet on your side, making that side 15 on your side and 5 on the other side? You understand? So it'd be 15 instead of 8.99 on your side. It'd be 15 feet on your side, away from your house, not 8.99. And then 5 on the other side, with the other house that we already approved for. Right. It'd be 5 feet against them. Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so that's something.
Well,
that
that's something he has to decide if
he
that's
has to decide.
acceptable.
He has to decide, and he has to get with his surveyor. He has to get with his surveyor, and that's something he has to decide to do. All of that. That's on his end. All right.
Well, are you making a motion?
I did make a motion to table this for 30 days.
I'll second that motion.
I think we have a motion on the floor. Any discussion of the motion? We are voting, just to be clear, we're voting on tabling this for 30 days.
Shante Hall,
Yes.
Richard Eslick,
Yes.
Corey Carnegie,
Yes.
Melissa Venable.
Yes.
The motion carries 4-0.
So the motion is to table this for a cleaner survey to be reconsidered next month, which is Tuesday, the second Tuesday of the month. I don't have that.
August 13th.
August 13th at 2 o'clock. Thank you so much for coming out for that applicant. I'm sorry it's taken so long. Our last item today is BZA 19-2024, 309 Oak Street, submitted by Steve Daniels. Ms. Cobb, will you please read the caption?
Before the Board of Zoning Appeals today is BZA 19-2024. The applicant, Steve Daniels, is requesting a variance to reduce the required side yard setback from 10 feet to 6.67 feet for the construction of a single-family dwelling. The property is identified as tax map 34G19A7*5, zoning classification residential medium density. When you act on this request, you'll be acting on a request to reduce the required side yard setback from 10 feet to 6.67 feet for construction of a new single-family dwelling. Should the board decide in favor of approving this request, the 8 findings as listed in your package must be articulated as part of the motion. We'll now have staff analysis and recommendation read by Kevin Alexander, zoning inspector.
Thank you. As previously stated, the applicant, Steve Daniels, is requesting a variance from the Unified Development Ordinance, UDO, Article 4, Section 31407, parentheses C, Table 407-1, Dimensional Standards L, to reduce the minimum required side yard setback from 10 feet to 6.7 feet in order to construct a single-family dwelling. The property is identified as tax map and parcel 34G19, parentheses 8, 7*5, located at 309 Oak Street, Suffolk, Virginia, Wellerville voting borough, zoning classification RM, residential medium. This variance request was advertised in the Suffolk News Herald, and a notice was mailed to adjacent property owners in accordance with Section 15.2-2204 of the Code of Virginia. The public notice sign was posted on the property pursuant to the request of the zoning administrator. The subject property is located also in the central growth area, which promotes single-family growth. Also, it's to aid in the nearby retail uses and other amenities such as parks and things that are kind of walkable and that are betterment for the community. This is the zoning land use map showing the overhead and the adjacent parcels of the subject property. It's located, once again, in the central growth area. Here's the posted notice out in front of the property. Here's the proposed, here's the site plan showing the location of the proposed dwelling, accompanied with the 2 off-street parking spaces. Reasonable diligence was also done on this particular parcel just to ensure there were no environmental impacts or anything of the nature. Here's the model set, called the Peace model set, showing the elevations, the actual interior layout. This is a model that's been previously used throughout the city, which appears to be a good model to actually use. With that being said, I close my staff report due to the fact that the parcel does not meet today's dimensional requirements. Staff recommends approval of this request. I'm available for any questions. And I believe I got the setbacks right this go around.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions? I'll open our public hearing. Hearings are 30 minutes in length. We have 10 minutes for the proponent, 15 minutes for opposition, and 5 minutes for rebuttal. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application?
Good afternoon, staff and board. Thank you. My name is Steve Daniels, 100 Dawson's Lake Lane, Suffolk. Veteran-owned company, as they were talking about earlier. Also, the second and third generation are here. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. This had a previous house on it before we purchased it. We've done a lot of houses right here in this neighborhood and made a huge improvement in this neighborhood, as I'm sure all of you are aware of, fulfilling a need for affordable new homes for homeowners. So we've made a very positive impact in this neighborhood and I'd like to continue that and keep going, making that positive impact. And I look forward to your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of this application? Is there anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Daniels? Thank you, sir. That closes this public hearing. The elevation that you had shown on the board here, we don't have in our package, but that was submitted with this.
Apologize about that not being in the package, but yes, it was submitted.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions, comments, or a motion?
I'll make a motion for approval.
We have a motion for approval,
I second.
and we have a second. Is there discussion of the motion? Seeing none, Ms. Cobb, will you please call for a vote?
Shante Hall,
Yes.
Richard Eslick,
Yes.
Corey Cornegay,
Yes.
Melissa Venable.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Congratulations. That closes today's public hearing, unless there's anything additional. And we will be meeting again in August. Thank you so much.